evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. It's 6 p.m., August 18th, 2025, and this is our budget workshop meeting. Marianne, can I get roll call?
Mayor Young.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sartori.
Here.
Councilmember Brandon.
Here.
Councilmember Painter. Councilmember French.
Here.
Thank you. And the only agenda item is to discuss changes in the budget from the last workshop. And Jeremy, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have a amended, brief, condensed version of what we had at the last workshop in July with the changes that was given to staff. With that, I'll go through some of this pretty quick because you've seen it before or a version of it. But I'll highlight some of the changes that we made. Obviously, it's the budget review, the dates that we have. Just bring your attention that September 4th, we do have our first budget hearing, and the 11th would be the second budget hearing, which is a normal council meeting date. We just started a little bit earlier. Just a review of our millage rate. It has stayed level across the years. Overall, it's 8.4% increase. A significant portion of this is due to new construction or property sales, which does change the Save Our Home exemption. Homestead properties is capped at 2.9%. More than 61% of the village residents use or have the homestead protection. Non-homestead properties limited to 10% increase. That includes commercial. Significant budget changes since the last meeting. Increased in assessed value. We got our new valuations as of July 1st. We made those changes. Contractual decrease in emergency services, the JIC contract, as you know, we froze there, increased for 5 years, so that was a $32,000 that we had to bring off of the revenues. We removed the use of the reserves, $1.4 million, that being a majority of that being the Remembrance Park project. We did decrease the general fund expenditures by $1.368 million. Decrease in personal expenditures of $52,000. We made some adjustments to the salaries that brought that down. Increase in 250-year celebration. We did not have anything in the last budget for that, but we did make that change to the budget. We allocate to fund balance is $39,000. Removed Remembrance Park project. Decrease in insurance premiums of $81,000. An increase. We did add a stipend for K9 Eric as a retired K9 officer, and we added that to the budget. Increase in fund balance and building fund reserves. We appropriated fund balance. We increased the appropriate fund balance $47,000. Increase in the expenditures, a total of $67,000. Decrease in Medicare or mental health, healthcare. Sorry, struggling. Healthcare, property insurance, and then we had an increase to capital outlay for the Station 11 that council has seen and we've discussed. We've started on some interior stuff. We haven't started on any of the major renovations until the next budget year starts, and so you'll see that in the budget and as well as in the general fund for moving the building over to Tequesta Park. We have decreased in capital improvement fund reserves of $1.3 million, the double accounting thing. So then we also had a decrease in capital improvement fund expenditures of $1.3 million. We did have a decrease in the water fund reserves of $68,000. And then we decreased the appropriate fund balance by that amount. And we also have the expenditures in the amount of $16,000 and $52,000. Special Law Enforcement Fund is a decrease in $20,000, and then we allocate to fund balance. We also decrease that. Items still outstanding. Depending on what we decide with Paradise Park, we may have $125,000 expenditures, with $100,000 being the lease of the property for the year, and then an estimated $25,000 in maintenance costs. Jupiter Narrows project, we discussed at the last workshop about allocating $5,000 for their project. They did send some specific projects or tasks with some different budget numbers, and so I would take direction from council. If you guys have looked at that email I sent you, if you want that number to be different, you'll have to let me know. We approved the solid waste rates. We still need to make those changes. We approved the stormwater rates. We still need to make those changes in the budget. You guys have approved those rates, but we just haven't been able, we haven't had time to change those, but that'll be changed before the budget hearing. Other minor changes will be benefits, capturing all the pay increases, contractual increases, making sure, just double checking all of our numbers on that, but there may be some small changes in the budget for those, and obviously the PBA, CBA is still ongoing. Budget summaries, you guys have seen a very similar slide to this, other than just the major changes pulling from reserves. There hasn't been a lot of changes to this. The general fund is increased 4.27%, mainly due to public safety salaries and personnel costs. The transfers down due to last year's vehicle replacement fund of $700,000. Overall, there's a 3.1% increase in the budget. This is just a pie chart representing the expenditures, and we have a similar one that represents the proposed revenues and shows you we have a balanced budget and allocates where those funds are going. General fund history and where we are with our 3-month balance. Typically, we have a policy, 3-month target. That is the best practice within municipalities. Interesting trend. I am seeing some municipalities considering boosting that a little bit. It's not overall, not everybody is doing it, but there is a little bit of a trend to trying to do that because we're not sure what's going to go on with property taxes. And obviously there's a double-edged sword there because the DOGE is coming. You know, they see that the extra funds and boosting that. So just being mindful, we want to make sure we use those taxpayer funds when we get those for projects, meaningful projects, which we have done a very good job of doing over the years and continue to do that. This slide represents the impact for the property tax increase, with keeping the millage rate the same. With a homestead property capped at 2.9%, the average homeowner with a homestead protection will see a $109 increase. That's based on a $600,000 property valuation. This slide was put in last time, just shows the differences, and it's hard to see on the screen, but shows the differences if the council decided to lower the millage rate and what the offset would be as far as financial and building fund reserves. You guys have seen this slide. The only thing that's changed with the building fund since the last meeting was the $75,000 for Station 11 to improve that. Fund's still healthy over time. For a while there we were carrying a little extra, but we have utilized those funds. We are fully staffed. We are expecting $256,000 over our unassigned fund balance for that fund. So we're still looking good. Still, we'll keep an eye on that on an annual basis. This just shows that we are $291,000 over the 6-month target expenditure for that fund. The other governmental entities, which includes capital, the capital fund, this has our 5-year breakdown. Typically every year we'll look at this. Council can move items around. We piece this together based on available funds and the necessity of those items. The funds for the 301 fund do sunset in 2026. We are looking at adding some additional funds in the future for roads. You know, we originally started out in 2019. I think it was like $250,000 we were putting toward roads. As we started, obviously cost increase, and we really started to get a better handle of changing those roads over from a 20-year to a 15. That cost has kind of escalated and increased. Right now we're at $710,000 for road improvements, and so as projects come up or the need comes up, we may need to add to it, but right now we're currently funding at that level. So the note on this one that we haven't really done a good job of highlighting, it is in your packet, has been there the whole time, is that, you know, in a couple of years we will need to change out the playgrounds at Constitution Park. Those playgrounds, that equipment is 20 years old, so with sun and use, and it's very used park, we do need to make some improvements, and the useful life of those parks are sneaking up on us. The other interesting note on this particular slide is to show that, you know, we do have $16 million in expenditures in utilities. This is planned. We use partly SRF funding, and then some pay-as-you-go for this year. And as we move forward, it's going to be really transferred to pay-as-you-go. And as we talked about with our strategic plan, trying to allocate some money for capital projects, we're putting away $2.1 million a year for pay-go projects. So as you see this trend, you'll see that it kind of fits within that. Any money that we don't use for that goes into reserve. And so when we have those bigger ticket items, we'll have that cash to be able to tackle those. So I think we're trending well with that. And I know Marjorie and her team have done a really good job of managing those projects and trying to get some of those moving this year. This slide represents the stormwater and then the special law enforcement fund, which this year with BLM partnership, we plan to put a boat lift out there at the BLM property. That is part of their project that they're doing. So hopefully this year we'll be able to contribute to that project and get a lift put out there for our marine boat. Capital improvement, this is the 301 fund, which the 301 fund is the surtax infrastructure surtax that does sunset December 31st. We plan to exhaust all the funds in this through this calendar year, leaving only $323,000, but that money we have earmarked for a future Northcom infrastructure project per contract. When that infrastructure project comes up, it's an estimated $9 million project. We do have to pay our portion of the improvements to that. We're estimating $323,000 should get us there. We're still working with Northcom, and it will also depend on the agencies that continue to participate in that. I know there's been some feedback from a couple agencies about the total cost of this project and how it's being bid. We're working through that. Our chief has been going to meetings monthly on this, and but right now we think the 323 will suffice, but that is to be determined. 303 fund is the funds that's funded from our general fund that we transfer general fund to cover these. You got your 710 for roads, 170 for sidewalks, 250 for Tequesta Park maintenance facility, Old Dixie improvements, and then the structural maintenance at 136 Bridge Road, which is the Public Works utilities. The utilities also has 47.5 to match those costs at that facility. Special law enforcement fund, these are the planned uses for out of that fund to cover that. I just think we just got an email today updating us that we did receive additional funds for some of the seizures that we got. We're looking for a couple really large ones, but I think we're trending well in this fund, just keeping it healthy, be able to use these funds specifically for law enforcement activities. And so this helps supplement so we don't have to use general funds for some of these things. And some of them are, the money they can use for more wants than needs. Sometimes it's for needs. So these projects, these project monies are good for the law enforcement. Water utility fund, this is the 401 fund. As you can see, we have our net positions $8 million. We did have a rate increase 3.5%. We have water treatment plant upgrades, energy resource improvements of 7.3. The water treatment plant membrane replacement program 1.125 million. Water main replacement program phase 2. That's the Beach Road, $4.7 million, and the relocation of concentrate disposal $660,000. The refuse and recycling, you guys have just recently saw this at the last council meeting. We are estimating our net position to be $16,000 after the increases that we made at the previous council meeting. Stormwater, also a fee that you guys approved at the last meeting. We have the rate increase of 5%, which equates to 57 cents for the 68% of our single family residents. We are transferring $135,000 from our utility tax, which is estimated $135,000 out of the $270 that we received. 3-month reclamation, 3 swell reclamation projects of $100,000, and then stormwater pipe maintenance of $100,000. Proposed vehicle replacements, nothing has changed since the last 2 workshops where we showed this. Still have ongoing, the big one being the rescue vehicle the rescue truck for the fire department. Having trouble speaking tonight. Budget decisions. So these are kind of your thresholds that you guys have to work with. If the millage rate is up to 6.3096, a simple majority vote. If it goes millage rate up to 6.94, 2/3 vote. Millage rate over 6.94, unanimous vote of the governing body. With that, you have the presentation. We're here happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Council, open it for discussion.
I have a few questions. I can go first. The 1.3 million from Remembrance Park transferred. Where does it transfer to?
Back to reserves. It was just coming out of our unassigned fund balance, so it wasn't used out of the general fund, like operating.
For those funds, I'd like to see them by the end of budget be appropriated in some direction, whatever that plan may be. I don't love the idea of them just sitting there in reserve without a plan, and whatever that may be, parks, property, whatever we come with at the end. At least a plan doesn't mean we have to do that, but at least they're assigned to a certain area. On Northcom, that's PD's dispatch only.
Currently, yep.
And I'm only asking. I don't know the answer. Is there a reason why we're on Northcom and not PBSOs?
So we were, I don't know, I'm not sure about PBSO. So we were always on, when we had our own dispatch, we were on the county dispatch, which I believe is PBSO as well. But we were in the county dispatch. We did a financial analysis that we would save over like a 5-year period almost $1 million. So we transferred over to Northcom. We pay a percentage of that fee to Northcom. Our fire is still on the county dispatch system, so we still run the calls through the county.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. Those are all mine for now.
Not really too many. We've gone through this, right? You happen to bring up playgrounds. I know that's a future thought, possible as we go down that road next budget season. We start looking at those numbers. Could we look at also options at phasing it in, just in case whatever happens next legislative season, possibly what that would look like if we did half a park or if we did a full park. I'm going to comment on your Northcom question.
Can I ask a question real
Yeah.
quick before you move on? So are you talking about Remembrance Park or are you talking about the playgrounds?
Constitution Park.
Okay, so that is that we're not seeing that expense until, it's hard to see from the screen, until 2029. So, we could start phasing it and then we'll look at it. I think it's something that it'd be easier to take a small bite at the apple, whether we start trying to do that earlier or we wait until 2029 and then start taking a bite of the apple, but we'll look at that.
That's all I'm saying, is just have the options in case the wear and tear comes faster. And I know a surrounding town was replacing a lot of playgrounds and there were some hiccups with engineering and going at the installation. So just make sure when we do it, we're prepared and we're doing it correctly and also budget friendly. As far as Northcom, the history on that, and I think we have an officer in the room. You can hear Jupiter, correct?
We can hear everybody in
Yeah. I'm still okay with staying to that because they can hear literally our neighbors. And at the time too, there were some school instances in the area, and it's nice if all of our neighboring municipalities right here can hear exactly what's happening. And that was big for the residents because there was some school instances at the high school and middle school. That's kind of all I have for right now. Good job, thank you. And I love the money man in the back. He does all the grit work for us.
Doug, thank you for, again, just doing a fantastic job on this whole budget, and I don't have any comments or questions.
Yeah, mine are pretty, did you have
I
something?
add one before you went because I know you was the last. I support the Jupiter Narrows. I think one of them was 6,000 for the options. you want to talk about that later, I support that $6,000 option.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think
I would agree with the same thing.
No, that was one of the things I was going to bring up. I mean, those are still just estimates at the end of the day. So I, for now, would like to just keep it at 5,000, and then when they get more, if they get their permits, construction's actually starting, we can deal with it then, like we discussed at the workshop last time. Because the appeared consensus was we wanted it to go towards something concrete, and when construction's absolutely starting. So I would like to keep it where it's at for now, because at the end of the day, that's an engineer's estimate. And we all know, and Marjorie knows well, that engineer estimates aren't always super accurate. So yeah, I just keep it what we agreed to already. The Old Dixie project, I don't know that we're gonna put a huge dent in that with 100,000. So I think that would come from reserves. So I don't know if that's something that we would need to add more money now for the budget if we think that we might want to put a bigger dent in that, or if that's something that can just be dealt with a budget amendment once we kind of get some plans and get the costs. I mean, I guess that's a question for Jeremy or Jeff.
So I think the plan would be to let us get a better scope. I think the question was brought up to us, like where did we get that number? I mean, that was kind of just a ballpark estimate. Let us work through the plan. We'll get a final number or a kind of a scope for what we want to do, and then we'll be able to kind of tie it to a budget number, and then we'll bring it back and say 100,000 is good, or hey council, we're going to need a little bit more money. So let us kind of work through that scope at this point.
Okay, yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Like, I don't want there to be a surprise if maybe, like halfway through the year we have to do a budget amendment, because they've been talking about beautifying Old Dixie well before I was on council, probably even before you were on council, and I don't want to half-ass it. I would like it to be a significant improvement that, our residents can see. And then reserves, were you talking about, like, at the end of next fiscal year, like when we start talking about the budget next year is when you want to have something earmarked?
I mean, now if we pulled it from Remembrance Park project, so now it does not have anything assigned to it, that we assign something to it so it doesn't sit in reserves, unassigned reserves. That it sits in if it has whatever that plan may be, just like Remembrance Park, it doesn't tie it to there, but at least it's assigned. I don't love having those additional funds and unassigned.
I mean, I guess I would lean to Jeff on best practice there, because because of the potential property tax reform and unknown FEMA changes to how much money that they are going to reimburse for, like, I really am not comfortable earmarking a bunch of money until those two things are a little more concrete. And then we do there's definitely stuff we can earmark it towards. Remembrance Park, DeQuesta Park, we'll see what happens, Paradise Park. So I think we have plenty of projects, and let's say Old Dixie if it ends up costing more. So I think there's lots of places to use it, but until the property tax and FEMA potential changes are understood, makes me nervous, like, earmark it now for something. I don't know, Jeff, maybe you know better what the best practice is for that. Or Jeremy.
I would
or
say, typically I would say, you want to use the money, because I've been in situations where we built up too much reserves. Residents were like, where's my taxpayer dollar going? And so we'd want to use, set our policy, which is 3 months, and then use the money. And if we were incurring more than 3 months worth of revenue, we would try to lower taxes. We're in a very unique situation right now where there's a lot of unknowns, which is, property tax. Even if they don't remove property tax altogether, there's probably going to be some homestead exemptions added or something. So it's not a bad idea to be cautious. So I know that kind of leans both ways, where you want to use that money, or, do we want to be cautious? And, I think in this point, I know Jeff and I had this conversation very early in the process of, utilizing for Remembrance Park. I think there's a good point that could be made to keep it in reserves, and kind of hold out until we see what's going to happen with property taxes. So that's at the will of the council, but I think either way, we're going to be justified however you guys decide at this point. We chose not to pursue Remembrance Park. We have plenty of projects that we can allocate it toward if council wants to use the money for something. We have needs. I mean, you look at playgrounds coming, and you guys have seen several of the capital projects that we can allocate it toward. We have stormwater. We can, throw some money at stormwater projects. I mean, if you guys want to spend money, but I see the value also of holding on and just seeing how property tax goes as well. We're not way over. I mean, I think we're probably at 4 months if you hadn't done the math, but we're probably at 4 months. It's not like we're stocked with reserves, so I think we're okay either way.
And where do the 3 months come from? Do all cities do 3 months, or like is that a standard? I mean, I guess I would like to know what all the other municipalities around us do.
There's a standard in government of 2 to 3 months. In hurricane areas, 3 months is more the standard than it is, say, if you have a snowstorm up north. It doesn't do the kinds of damages that we would experience if we get a full head on. So 3 months gives us some time to help our residents, get them back on the track, get our place working, and then FEMA will start kicking in.
So FEMA does change, like so the latest that Mary had was that they were talking about doing it, by 4, increasing the threshold. So what do you think that would do to the reserve amounts that we would keep if that happened?
It depends on how much the threshold would be. You're just talking about damage. So what we're worried about is if we get a head-on hit, there's not going to be any problem getting damage in Palm Beach County because there's all the different areas that are going to be affected. So we will hit that level pretty easily. If we just get the storms where we're getting ready and we're hanging out, getting ready to respond and nothing happens, then it's a small amount and it's not that big a deal. I mean, it's not as bad as it could be.
Right, but even so, if they change their threshold, like it's around $7 million now, it goes to $28 million. Like we're still going to pay more out of pocket than if there's a bigger disaster, right?
Well, I mean, if in fact we get hit solid, $20 million will be nothing. If we just getting ready, I mean, we may not get enough. So, for instance, this year, the one we just had, we have like $67,000 worth of overtime costs that we're asking FEMA to give back, and so eventually we'll get that, but it takes them a bit.
Okay.
So it's not. I don't see it as a real deterrent.
Okay. But yeah, I'm still in line. Like I said, it's a very abnormal year we have coming up, and I agree. Like you don't want to hoard taxpayer dollars. That's very bad practice. But I think this is a very unique circumstance, and then I think as soon as we know what's happening, we have lots of projects we can spend the money on. So I don't think it's a matter of not spending the money. It's like, let's wait and see, because we might have to subsidize loss and ad valorem. So yeah, I still, just like you said, just this year until we know what's going on.
And when we talk about property tax, we talked about after the state decides for this next session what the property tax is.
Yeah, well, anything they decide will have to go to the ballot. I think like everything they're talking about would have to go to the ballot. So then that would be what ballot would it go
I
on?
think they were talking about November of 26 ballot is what they do, so it'd probably take effect, I guess, the January after that, I guess. So January 27.
Yeah.
Could they make it in November of this year? 25? No, it's 26. I'm sorry. They were talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
But even so, we already working on our budget before it goes out to vote. But at least we would know what it is, so we could like crunch the numbers to see like, okay, well, if this does happen, we need to like save this much. So whether it passes or not, we would be able to do the math and figure out like what the impact is while we're doing our budget next year.
Sure, I understand that. But, I mean, we're talking a year and 3 months though before you even know what's going to happen, right? Because even if they decide, the state says, okay, this is what we're going for, the voters still have to go all the way to vote for it. So even if the state decides this is the way direction we're going, the voters are going to have to weigh in.
Yeah, but when does session end? In March this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we would know then what's going to ballot. So like, so we could do the math then, whether it passes or not. We can be like, okay, you know, when session's over, it starts in January, right? So it
Session.
ends in March, though. So end of March, whenever it ends. If something is going about, we're gonna know what it is. So the money man back there, as Councilmember Brandon called him,
He's the money
can start doing the math to figure out how that's gonna impact us. So that way we can be ready and plan, and then we'll have a better idea. Like, okay, well, let's just earmark this much for property tax reform if it does pass, and then the rest we know we can, you know, start allocating it towards projects. So I would say
I agree, because
after
right now it's
session's
just
over,
what are they gonna do?
yeah.
We have no idea where they're gonna go with it right now.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's a tough one for me to swallow because if there's not a huge, right? It's every session there's a scary something, and then if it's usually not that scary, and then we get there and now we lost a year and a half or a year and 3 months of projects we could have done. If it's building a park or maintaining a park or whatever, even buying a property, you know. But I guess if that option gets there, we could jump ahead and change that.
Yeah, but if we know something's happening at the end of March after session, and we do the math and figure out, well, let's just earmark X amount now in case that passes, we could allocate stuff from reserves next fiscal year, whether we technically budgeted or not, if we want to move forward with something before the next budget fiscal year, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's not
See
like
what you're saying.
so we could still do something next year. So just wait and see till session's over.
You say budgeting for worst case scenario, because we don't know what's going to go with the vote.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't, there's extra.
Does that make sense? Is everyone- Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mayor? Jeremy, back in the, excuse me, the 301 fund, it's $989,000, of which $854,000 is the 5-year Tequesta Bridge Improvement Plan. So do we incur that $850,000 all in this coming budget year, or is it $175,000 a year for the next 5 years?
I'm pretty sure we're going to get it all done. I think it's about a 6-month project. We plan on kicking it off. I mean, we've already working on the plans. We plan on kicking off like right toward the beginning of the year. I don't think we'll kick it off until January, February, but I think Doug told me it's about a 6-month process. So I think we'll expend all $854,000.
And is this, it's called a 5-year plan because every 5 years we do this?
Well, we set out like 2 years ago to make it our 5-year bridge plan.
Okay.
So it's not going to come back in 5 years. At least this particular part of it, we just set out a couple of years ago. We had never put any money toward the bridge, and we were like, all right, we got a 5-year capital plan. Let's put together a 5-year bridge plan because we knew we were going to have to break it out in increments. And this was actually broken out. We had some small changes to the bridge like 2 years ago, and I say changes. Improvements to the bridge a couple of years ago. Then we had plans, and then we were going to break it out in 2 years. But because we had the available surtax funds, we went ahead and combined 2 years. So it was really like a 4-year plan, you know, kind of big bid build, you know, type of approach. So that's why it's a 5-year choice.
And on the heels of a comment that was made earlier about the best laid plans or best laid budgets don't always pan out. We'll end the fiscal year at $324,000 in this 301 fund. What if this bridge costs us $1.4 million? And that fund, that 301 fund, can we take that from general?
We could.
We can.
Well, we can take it from 301 fund or take it from the reserves and then help pay for our Northcom out of reserves. I mean, you know, tomato at that point. But yeah, I mean, we'd probably just use the remainder of the 301 funds at that point. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
Doug does a really good job of capital projects. He'll keep us on budget.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
I have one more miscellaneous on the page 9 of the agenda. You had removed reserves of 1.4 million, but Remembrance Park was 1.3. What's the other 100,000? What was that for?
Do you remember, Jeff? Do you remember what that was?
Oh, Dixie.
Oh, that's right. We moved Old Dixie to the general fund expenditures, not out of reserves. That's right.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So that's coming out. I will mention that just to remind everybody with Old Dixie is that when we put together improvements for that, we are at the mercy of the railroad. At any point, at any time, they can say, we need our land back and we have to take out those improvements at our cost. And so that's why there's never been a huge investment in that right of way, because we lease the land. And so just know that. I mean, we don't have any inclination that they're gonna take it back. They don't take it back anywhere in, throughout the state, but we are at their mercy. If they decide they're gonna go start taking right of way back to put in a third track, we have to take that out, and it's at our expense. So if we want to go put more money than 100,000, that's just the risk that we're taking. So that's the reason why a lot hasn't been done with that since it's been in our strategic plan since 1979, is because there's a risk that goes with that.
We would have got our money's worth if we did
Yeah.
something in 1979 by now. So. Again, it's like the Cuesta Park, right? It's one of those things. It's like it's investment in our community, and they're gonna appreciate it. I mean, there's stuff to do on the other side, on the east side there too, isn't there? Like, can't we do more landscaping and shade trees?
On the east side, it's done fairly well, I think. I mean, I know we had talked about doing some street lighting and maybe some decorative lighting over there. That wasn't an option. I think most of it was always on the west side, and even on the east side of the sidewalk on the west side, if that makes sense. Really trying to improve it. So I think that's where the most improvements can come, but I'm sure there is some improvements we can make on the east side, and most of it was all on the west.
Yeah. I think both sides could use a little sprucing up, in my opinion.
I agree.
Any other comments or questions? Nope. Well, great job. The next time we get to talk about this is at the budget hearing.
Yeah.
We don't really talk too much. We just approve or deny. So, and I would usually take public comment, but there is no public here tonight. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Patrick missed a short one.
Yeah.
It's probably. Trying to lobster this week off.
Good job as usual.
Sir?